if you are a traditional large enterprise, you have a lot of untapped advantages. And if you want to tap into those things and spin out a separate platform business, you need autonomy. And if you're going to try and do this within your four walls, Walmart Marketplace in 2009, they tried to do this internally. Walmart Marketplace failed. Why did it fail? Simply because Walmart Marketplace was called Walmart Marketplace, because that signified how close that new initiative was to Walmart. And so we have many examples. We've written extensively about this, but a couple that really exemplified this point in spades is, so when you were buying something on Walmart Marketplace, it was back 2009, they had third-party sellers. But all the inventory you viewed in Walmart Marketplace, it wasn't commingled with traditional Walmart inventory. These were two separate buying experiences, two separate product catalogs. So Walmart's product catalog wasn't in the marketplace. It was purely third-party seller inventory. And then right when you were about to check out, Walmart and all of their brilliance back then, 10 years ago, gave you a nice little pop-up. And the pop-up said, oh, by the way, these aren't sold by Walmart. These are sold by our partners. So basically, if something goes wrong, just so you know, this doesn't really fit all of our same kind of warranty and return policies and all these kinds of things. So good luck, have fun, hope you buy it. How many people do you think actually ended up buying after they see that pop-up? Like no one. That was point number one. Point number two is, that's on the customer side. On the producer side, on the seller side, you had to go through Walmart's traditional procurement department, which, as you can imagine, is not a friendly or quick or painless experience. Quite the opposite, actually. So if you're a third-party seller, you could go sign up on Amazon and start selling on Amazon in like 10 minutes. Or you could try and go through weeks and weeks of a very arduous process on Walmart. And oh, by the way, Amazon in 2009 was probably doing 100x the volume of Walmart. So why bother? Those are just a couple examples, but it just goes to show you when this new fledgling business model is so new and raw, it needs a lot of separation from the core business. And you probably don't even want the brand associated with it at all in the very early stages, which is what I'm about to talk about. Rapid business model validation. And so when you want to prove the business model, in Walmart's case, hey, we should open up our e-commerce to third-party sellers. We should allow other third-party sellers to post inventory on our website that we don't have in our warehouse. And we should allow them to put up products, to post and list prices. And we need to do this. And this is a viable business model. In the early days, when Walmart's trying to prove this and say, hey, we need to make a lot of investments in this, or for that matter, any traditional enterprise that's entertaining the idea of true business model innovation and having a separate business exists outside of their core enterprise, how do you validate that? How do you get buy-in at the executive level, possibly at the board level if needed? Very quickly. And so the key is this. The key is to not write any code, like zero code. And what you want to do is say, how could I not get an MVP, right? This is so far earlier than MVP. This is saying, how can I find a consumer and a producer? How can I show to a high likelihood of confidence that these two users want to exchange value with one another, right? And that's what we call the core transaction. Can I find a consumer? Can I find a producer? Can I figure out how they want to interact with one another? And can I do that? Can I do that like 5 times? And can I do that in a couple weeks? And so how would you go about doing that? And the idea is, how could you use off-the-shelf tools, different SaaS products that are out there, to go find some consumers? Could be business customers, could be kind of regular consumers, and then find some producers in a marketplace model. That would be, or let's say in B2B distribution, where we do a lot of work. That would be small mom and pop third-party distributors, maybe manufacturers, but mostly you want to focus on the highly fragmented supply first, not the large suppliers, which are going to have a lot of rules, a lot of requirements before they do any business with you. But how could you get some initial supply? How could you get some initial demand and put these two things together? And so, and and then really force yourself to say, I want to stand this up in a month, no more than a month. And the idea is to fail fast, to not write any code, and to drive some traffic to go and put this stuff together. This works for pretty much all the platform types except for development platforms. It's very hard to do an initial core transaction on a development platform. That's a different path. Content platforms, depending upon the content format, may not always fit this mold. Social networks may not always fit this mold. It depends on the interaction model. But generally, you can, even communication platforms, right? Like you can get people talking or communicating. Let's go back to the marketplace example. Can you find some customers that want to buy stuff? Can you throw up a lot of manual hacks, unscalable tactics, where maybe you find some demand, people want to buy something from you, and then you got to go call people up and source that stuff and track them down and say, hey, I've got an order. Do you want to fulfill this order? But the point is this, that sounds like a really miserable experience. That is not seamless. That is not quick. It's not really, it doesn't seem like it's driving a lot of value. But if you found, I'm not talking triple digit figures of transactions here, but if you can do a single double digit amount of transactions in a very clunky, arduous fashion, it's not too difficult to make the assumption that if you were then to invest in technology, if you were then to invest in actually building software, hiring some engineers, doing some real sales and marketing, putting a real brand together for this business, and what you're doing is just making that core transaction a lot more seamless, a lot quicker, a lot easier for the customer to come back again or for the customer to transact initially, right? But if you've been able to find customers at that point in the life cycle, what you're trying to do, right? Like the business model might make sense, but what you're trying to gauge is the timing right for this business opportunity? If you can show that these really clunky manual hacks are actually letting you do core transactions, which by definition means you technically have a platform business going. It's just not scalable, right? But technically, you stood up a platform in a week. Then you say, you know what? The timing is actually pretty good because I found customers that are using this more than just one. And, there might be something here. Let's go a step deeper on that. My friends over at Handy, they blurbed the book. Oshin blurbed the book, the co-founder and CEO, and Umang's co-founder and COO. One of the things that they spoke to me about when they first started Handy, which really stuck to me, they started Handy on a whiteboard. They had a landing page. You could say, I need my home cleaned or I need a plumber. And then you could book it. And they would let you book it, say, a week out, right? When you think about that experience, they aren't automatically confirming with the producer, with the home cleaner or the plumber right then. When you book it as a customer, you're booking it a week out. And they probably, maybe they started this business, maybe not 10 years ago, but early 2010s, right? And the customer expectation at that point in time was fine with that. And they were able to build significant traction with that amount of turnaround time, with that either seamless or not so seamless of an experience. As the market and as the industry grew, consumer expectations also grew. So if you were to try and build a competitive home services marketplace, and you are going to let someone book for home cleaning, but the soonest you can deliver that service is in 7 days, and you try to launch that business today, no one's going to book with you. And your economics probably will also not be affordable either. You're not hitting them on convenience. You're not hitting them on the economics. You've lost the network effect. You can't get the supply side or the demand side network effect because the market is too mature if you were to just build this from scratch in this scenario. But if you are able to now rewind the clock and say, well, that was essentially exactly what I'm talking about, where they put up some off-the-shelf tools. That wasn't a custom website. It was a landing page, and you get to book a date and say, hey, I want someone to come clean my house in a week. Okay, great. Here's the price. And then it was their job to make a bunch of calls on the back end and try and fill that and get a bunch of producers and suppliers and contractors that could do that job. Okay, that's what Handy was doing for many, many years. And then all they were doing was saying, okay, now we can do it in 5 days. Now we can do it in 4 days. Okay, now we can do it in 2 days. And then next day, I think has been the recent kind of holy grail for them to get to. But if you are, again, able to stand up a platform, do manual hacks, do it in a very clunky way with no custom code written, very minimal investment, and you're able to do core transactions like I'm talking about, that's a pretty good indicator that the market is raw enough, or there's a need and you're able to find customers where their expectation is not so advanced that you would need to say, go buy a company, because that company has already built the technology, maybe already has some network effects going for it. They either hit on the convenience factor or the economics or pricing factor of the equation, or the product catalog factor of the equation. If you're not finding anyone and those hacks don't work for you, then maybe the opportunity is still correct, but you're too late to the game because consumer expectation is now too advanced, and maybe you have to now go look at doing some acquisitions. I'd say that's kind of the primer. We're going to go deeper on what these different hacks could look like when you look at different types of platforms, right? So the hacks for a product marketplace would be different than a service marketplace, would be different than, say, an investment platform or a lending marketplace or a communication platform, right? But all these types of hacks exist. It's really just a matter of figuring out if the opportunity you've defined is matching with the timing of the industry or the market you're trying to go after. And that's pretty much the definition of product market fit, by the way, right? Have I found that my product and my business model resonates and this thing is working in the market? So it's very raw and it's very controlled and the sample size is very small. But if you want to then take that and make the argument to the higher ups at a traditional enterprise, build a business model around that, put all the regular business plan and financials around that package, and you say, okay, give me a shot. Let me go try and build this business. Let me try and go and scale and build these teams out and all the things I was talking about. That's a compelling argument to also try and get autonomy, because that's really the crux of what you need to go and actually execute appropriately and try out a bunch of tactics to try and scale this business, many of which are going to fail, but you want to fail fast. And you don't want the traditional enterprise to get the blowback when the 9 things that you try fail, but 1 works, right? You need that flexibility and kind of that shield back to the core business so that you can actually have the full scope of options in front of you when you are trying to find true product market fit. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.